All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here today. I'm Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan. I have the pleasure of representing the 4th Congressional District. I am also a proud member of the Biden-Harris Advisory Board and a proud member of the Congressional Pro-Choice Caucus. We are here because, as I'm sure you know, Donald Trump is holding a rally right here in Richmond down the street later today. And as a Virginian, as a woman, as a mother of 2 beautiful children, I am here to talk about how much is at stake in this election and how another 4 years of Donald Trump would be catastrophic for our Commonwealth and particularly catastrophic for reproductive freedom. I am the first generation of my family to lose a constitutional right in my lifetime. And as a result, my daughter could have less reproductive freedom than I had when she was born. That is all because of Donald Trump. Trump is proud of appointing the Supreme Court justices necessary to overturn Roe versus Wade. He brags about ripping away reproductive freedom from millions of women across the country. He's called for women to be punished for having an abortion and to punish the providers that provide that care. And he wants to take credit for the extreme abortion bans passed by Republicans in states across the country. We are here to give him that credit. Because even though Virginia stopped MAGA Republican attempts to pass an extreme abortion ban here in Virginia by voting at the ballot box this past November, the stakes could not be higher for reproductive freedom this November. When I was in the state Senate, I proudly led the passage of the Reproductive Health Protection Act. It was the first proactive expansion of abortion rights, not only in Virginia, but across the South. Those rights are at risk with Donald Trump on the ballot. It is crystal clear what Donald Trump would do if he got another term. He would ban abortion nationwide, with or without Congress. He would undermine access to contraception. He would undermine access to in vitro fertilization. And he would roll back reproductive freedom and a woman's ability to make her own healthcare decisions. Trump and MAGA Republicans are hell-bent on intervening in some of the most private and difficult decisions that a family can make. And new reporting revealed today that Trump's allies are already planning to dedicate an entire agency to banning abortion. Families here in Virginia are watching in horror as access to in vitro fertilization has been ripped away in Alabama. This is the reality that Donald Trump caused and the reality we could face here in Virginia if he were elected to another term. Virginians made it clear in November that they reject these attacks on reproductive freedom, and they're going to do it again this November. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are fighting to protect reproductive freedom. They are the only candidates fighting to protect reproductive freedom and the right for patients and their doctor to make their own decisions. The choice is crystal clear. A vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is a vote for reproductive freedom. Let me say that again. A vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is a vote for reproductive freedom. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote to attack reproductive freedom. The stakes in this election could not be higher. And this Tuesday and in November, Virginians will come to the polls once again and prove they reject any attempts to ban abortion. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Sarah Emmershine.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is this your phone?
No.
Okay, cool. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Sarah Emmershine. I am a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist licensed in Virginia for more than 40 years. I'm an abortion provider, and I'm the founding medical director for Grace Reproductive, a new not-for-profit reproductive health and wellness center opening this summer in Northern Virginia. Let's talk about abortion today. Let's talk about obstetrical care. Let's talk about IVF and fertility care. Let's talk about our freedom to make decisions about our bodies and our futures. As a provider, I know firsthand If Donald Trump regains power and bans abortion nationwide, the safety and well-being of my patients would be decimated. Patients would be denied appropriate medical care and effective fertility treatments. Right now, abortion-hostile states threaten doctors and our patients with jail time for providing safe, appropriate reproductive health care. If Trump and his MAGA Republicans enact a nationwide abortion ban, our freedoms will be stripped away. Virginians and 80% of all Americans want the freedom to decide what is best for our bodies and our lives. We don't want Trump's MAGA extremists taking away our options and controlling our futures. If Donald Trump gets his nationwide abortion ban, Virginia women would have nowhere to turn for reproductive health care. We would all lose freedom. Abortion restrictions and bans are dangerous. Wherever abortion is illegal or unavailable, women die. Wherever there are random gestational age restrictions or vague viability bans, there will always be compelling cases demanding compassionate abortion care. Think of the pregnant parent with a deeply desired pregnancy who has a serious medical complication or a flawed pregnancy. Think of the young teen raped and fearful, unaware or unable to recognize her own pregnancy. Think of your autonomy and freedom to self-determination. Think of your constitutional right to the pursuit of your happiness. The stakes in November couldn't be higher. Reproductive freedom is on the ballot, and women's health and safety are on the line. The answer? Vote. Vote for reproductive freedom. Vote out extremist MAGA politicians. Vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Thank you for your time and your vote. And I'm introducing Dr. May.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Jessica DeMay, and I'm a maternal fetal medicine, or MFM, physician in practice for over 20 years, specifically in Richmond for 13. As an MFM, my job is to take care of high-risk pregnancies. These include pregnant people with medical problems, pregnancy-related complications, and fetal abnormalities. In the state of Virginia, our practice and counseling of patients has not significantly changed since the Dobbs decision, as Virginia, at least for now, is a state where reproductive rights are protected. There has been an impact, however, as many states to our south have passed strict abortion bans since Roe v. Wade was overturned. It has forced patients to come north to Virginia for care. And as a result, some of our patients have faced delays in care. As noted by Congresswoman McClellan, depending on the results of the next presidential election, we may be facing not only a nationwide abortion ban, but also a potential ban on access to in vitro fertilization and even contraception. A nationwide abortion ban would be extremely dangerous for pregnant patients in America. Pregnancy complications can put the life or the health of the mother at risk. Examples include early rupture of membranes, which can cause severe infection, sepsis, loss of fertility, and early preeclampsia, which can result in hemorrhage, stroke, kidney failure, liver rupture, and death. In states that have passed strict abortion bans, my colleagues struggle with determining at what point a patient is sick enough in the eyes of the law to allow her to abort a pregnancy. Often, physicians must confer with hospital attorneys to make these determinations, resulting in delays in care. This could be the reality in Virginia if a national abortion ban becomes law. Many of these laws do not allow for exceptions for severe or even lethal fetal abnormalities. Mothers carrying pregnancies that cannot survive are forced to not only take on the additional risk of carrying a pregnancy to term, but they must endure the mental and emotional harm of being forced to carry a doomed pregnancy against their own wishes. Isn't this a decision that should be left to pregnant patients and their families rather than politicians? I'd like to introduce Dr. Jess Gertz next.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Jessica. I'm a physician and mother of two, and I'll be talking about my experience having an abortion at 21 weeks. The weather at the Jersey Shore for Labor Day at 2020 was fantastic for everyone lucky enough to be there. I tossed a football in the surf with my sister-in-law as my 2.5-year-old son made sandcastles, his favorite thing to do. I was 20 weeks pregnant. The next day, I took pictures of my son as he was headed off to his first day of school, then hurried to the hospital for my 20-week ultrasound. Even though I was low risk, I had chosen to get every possible available standard genetic test, and everything had been normal. My son's gestation and delivery had been completely uneventful. I was 33, fit, with no medical problems. I was 21 weeks pregnant that day. Due to the holiday and my husband's surgical schedule, it was a few days later than I had hoped, but I had no reason to expect anything but a clean bill of health. As the sonographer scanned, my husband and I chatted, unconcerned. The exam seemed to be taking a bit longer than it had for my son, but I didn't think much of it. As an emergency physician who does ultrasounds every time I'm at work, I know firsthand that some exams are more difficult than others. The sonographer politely excused herself and said that she was going to grab the doctor to come say hi. My husband and I waited for what seemed like a long time. We chuckled about having to wait so long given we were both employees of the hospital. Finally, the doctor came in. He shook our hands and started to explain that some of the measurements were abnormal. We sat there, stunned. The genetic counselor came in and I flatly asked her how often she saw these findings on ultrasound and the baby ended up being healthy. She said never. The odds were 0. We knew at that moment what we wanted to do. I chose to have an abortion. Having been present during a few stillbirths, it remains one of the most terrifying things I have ever witnessed. The thought of watching a non-viable fetus struggle for life was overwhelming. I also desperately wanted another child. The quicker I could begin to heal, the sooner I could try to have a healthy baby. But most of all, I thought of my son. I didn't want to risk my life going through a traumatic delivery when I knew there was something safer. Whatever I could do to increase the odds of coming home safely to my son, I was going to do. What could I do to miss the fewest bedtimes? When I awoke in the postoperative area, I was overwhelmed with a sense of gratitude for my wonderful husband and son who I could go home to, for my medical team who took care of me with compassion and grace, for my health and the opportunity to take care of patients myself, for being one step closer to having another baby. 3 months later, we conceived a little girl, and less than a year after I sat stunned in that exam room, I was able to hold my baby girl in my arms. I was able to make that life or death decision in one of the most difficult times of my life. I did not want to risk my life going through a potentially traumatic labor and delivery. I did not want to tell my son and everyone else in my life why I would not be coming home with a baby after clearly being pregnant. I wanted a baby and to move forward. Thank you all for being here today to support a women's right to choose. If Donald Trump got the national abortion ban he's pushing for, I wouldn't have been able to make this choice or access the care that I needed. Thank you.
I think the message has been the same. We have been warning, we warned before Donald Trump was elected that if he got his way and Roe fell, that not only would it affect access to abortion, it would affect all reproductive health care, including access to contraception, in vitro fertilization, miscarriage management, and we've seen that play out. And unfortunately, now we have cases that we can point to. You know, here in Virginia, we had a personhood bill introduced a decade ago. We warned this would happen. Now we are seeing that play out, and I think now we need to be louder to make sure everybody understands that reproductive freedom is on the ballot this November. Well, I think what is notable to me is that every Republican that wants to get reelected is bowing down to their titular leader, whether they agree with him or whether they think that their voters agree with him or not. And I've seen that in Congress for sure. Even when they disagree with him, even when they know that his policies would be reckless or dangerous for this country, they bow down to him anyway. So I'm not surprised. Glenn Youngkin's not going to be on the ballot as governor again. Maybe that played into his decision. I don't know. But the Republican Party, MAGA has taken over the Republican Party, and we're seeing that in Trump's endorsements.